Good afternoon, Trump's family. Welcome back to my channel. Have a good day, everyone, and God bless you. Alright, without further ado, let's get into the news this Saturday morning. And Democrats along the whole political landscape is starting to panic some more, because of news out of Oregon, where the Republican nominee for governor is actually now leading the race, and polling in Oregon instance a Democrat stronghold. They've had that seat since like the mid-80s. And they are going to not give it up with a fight. But other things are also happening in that area. Nevada, we see, could be turning red as well. And of course, along with Oregon, so Democrats are preparing for a complete wipeout this November, which would be excellent to see take place, because we've seen how rogue and how destructive these policies have been. I think the American people are now finally have fed up with enough of the current trajectory of the soulless commie government that is currently running things. So let's dive into it. What we have here, talking about the Oregon race. Republican Christine Dresden maintains a strong poll numbers in Oregon's governor's race and is now leading. Republican Dresden is holding on to her strong poll numbers and the race for governor in Oregon. If Transit wins this race, it will be the first Republican to do so since the 1980s. They're starting to look like she could actually pull this off. It is a sleeper race of 2022 that no one saw coming. The Oregon voters could be ready to elect their first Republican governor since the 80s. According to a poll released this week, 32% of Oregon voters said they would vote for the Republican candidate Christine Dress, and according to an independent poll, published by The Oregonian on Wednesday, Democrat candidate Tina Kotek is neck and neck with Dress in a 31%. The second time this year a poll has shown Kotek tailing behind. Independent candidate Betsy Johnson sits at 18%. If she wins, Transit would be the first Republican governor elected in Oregon since 1982. When a GOP incumbent victor at ATI won re-election, the news comes at Democrats mounting massive campaign to keep Oregon blue. The Democratic Governors Association this year has donated more than $3 million to County Tech, including $1.25 million in September. The Cook Political Report and in University of Virginia Senator Politics have both moved this race to a toss-up since August. The election has become a referendum on the liberal state's approach to rising violent crime and rampant drug use. Portland, Oregon. Oregon's largest city solved the most homicides in its history. Last year, nearly 90% of voters said the quality of life has worsened in the city, according to February poll. In a quarter say crime is Portland's biggest problem. So we'll see what takes place as we get closer to the election. As we see here, she is up by 1%. Of course, that's within the zone. Have you know the thing? I'm gonna be fooled by the in there, you know the thing, margin of error. So we see what's going to take place in Oregon. Hopefully that she's able to pull it off, and hopefully Oregon does turn red. It'd be fantastic. See another red state out in that western quarter of the country, and hopefully some sanity is returning to the nation. But we'll see what plays out in October, the November. And we'll see as things continue to move in that direction. And you think that after months of Joe Biden's blunders and fails, that lower-level Democrats will try to take a hint and not follow in the same footsteps. But no, of course not. Democrats don't learn, they just double down. We've been covering how Joe Biden continues to take credit for things that, first of all, he has nothing to do with, or things that never happened. And of course, how he continues to take victory laps, claiming victory is on inflation, the southern border, the economy and the stock market, even though there's crises across the board in every single one of those domains. It's been an utter messaging disaster for the Biden regime across the board on all of these issues, and specifically because of this rhetoric, because of Joe Biden's refusal to just I don't know, admit the truth. And you think that lower-level Democrats would take a hint, but no, of course not. They're following Joe Biden's footsteps. This time we have Democrat Pennsylvania Senate candidate John Fetterman, Little John Fetterman, John Federal Woman, whatever the hell you want to call them, releasing an ad campaign claiming that he reduced crime. But get this, folks, crime surged during his tenure as mayor of that city, and the moment he left office, guess what? Crime plummeted nearly 61%. The GOP has already pouncing, and it looks like John Fetterman and his campaign are currently scrambling to find a solution here as they receive a massive optics L, another major L in the Fetterman campaign, which seems to be failing and flailing, crumbling before our very eyes. It's all going downhill for Federal Woman. Let me show you guys exactly what I mean by that. Alright, folks. Take a look at this satanic John Fetterman cuts ad claiming he made communities safer when crime quadrupled in his city. Now this headline is a little bit confusing. They say John Fetterman cuts ad. I'm not sure if he cut the ad and is not running it anymore because it was a total optics fail, or if Jim Hoft is saying that they cut an ad together like cutting video together. I'm assuming they mean cut the video, put the video together, but it's a little bit of a confusing title. I'm not sure if that's purposeful. But anyways, John Fetterman, the face of the modern-day Democrat Party, Fetterman released a dishonest ad today where he claims that he made his community safer. New ad: I'm the only candidate in this race who has actually made our community safer. When I served as mayor of Braddock, our town went 5.5 years without a loss of life through gun violence. Proud to have the support of the Sheriff Sean Kilkenny from Pennsylvania. Except here's the problem: John's little stunt here. His little ad is very easily debunked, and immediately that's been capitalized by his Republican opponents. Crime skyrocketed in Braddock while Fetterman was mayor. Washington, D.C. While on the campaign trail, Pennsylvania Senate candidate John Fetterman claims he was, quote, very successful in reducing crime when he was mayor of, but that couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, according to publicly available data, crime skyrocketed in Braddock while Fetterman was mayor, and in 2019, the first year in over a decade that Fetterman was not mayor, Radek's crime rate dropped by 61%. You guys can see both charts right over here. Violent crime in Braddock, and all property crimes in Braddock both spikes during his tenure as mayor, and the moment he left office violent crime tank. It does not get any more dishonest than this. He's looking like an absolute fool on this one. I mean, just look at his tweet that he released. The Twitter thread that follows is RNC Research dunking on him. Thread: here are 4 of the brutal killers John Fetterman voted to release. Stop lying. Violent crime surged while you were mayor. Here are the many times John Fetterman called for releasing 1/3 of the inmate population. It doesn't get any more dishonest, and the people of Pennsylvania are seeing this and they're discussing this, and it's going to have a serious impact. You don't get to be the soft on crime Democrats who's during his time as mayor oversaw a massive spike in violent crime that magically just disappeared after he was released. He don't get to be that guy. That person then tried to take victory laps or take credit as being a law enforcement hog or being a public safety guy, just like Joe Biden doesn't get to take credit for his economic policy. But both of these goons, both of these fools are doing exactly that. And it's going to backfire, and backfire spectacularly. In fact, John Fetterman's 48% ceiling is kind of dropping these days. I just saw a poll showing him at 47%. His overall average lead against Mehmet Oz also continues to shrink within the 3 to 4 percentage point mark. Then you got to add undecideds, most likely splitting Republican. Then you got to add the margin of error and Republican support just in general being underestimated. John Fetterman, his campaign is in serious trouble. And this right over here doesn't help. The optics of his campaign are terrible. I don't even understand his policies, to be completely honest with you. So far, what we've heard from John Fetterman is I agree with every single one of Bernie Sanders's campaign on exactly a great pitch in a moderate state like Pennsylvania. Then you have his soft on crime policies. Again, not exactly a great pitch in Pennsylvania, as we're seeing a massive crime surge there over the last little while, especially in Philadelphia. Not exactly a good pitch considering the most important districts that you need to win in a state like Pennsylvania or the Philadelphia suburbs. And so after this massive campaign and just the lack of a concrete messaging campaign in the first place, I wouldn't be surprised if John Fetterman, his campaign continues to crumble in the same way that we're seeing Mandela Barnes continue to crumble. I mean, Mandela Barnes clearly is just the Wisconsin version of Pennsylvania's John Fetterman. And we've seen exactly what's happened there. And it's also getting a whole lot worse. In this most recent Wisconsin poll by Fabrizio Award, an Impact Research, a Democrat and Republican pollster combination, Ron Johnson now leads Mandela Barnes at 51 to 46%. And Tim Michels has overtaken Tony Evers at 50 to 47. This is a prediction that we made maybe 2 months ago, that these were the numbers that we would start seeing the closer we get to Election Day, because Mandela Barnes is not the right candidate for Wisconsin politics. And I've been saying forever that what's going to happen to Mandela Barnes is most likely going to happen to John Fetterman. And trust me, it's going to happen. The more these videos circulate, the more the hypocrisy circulates, the more people realize what John Fetterman's true track record is, and how much of a liar and a hypocrite he is. The more people realize how extreme he is, how incompetent and unqualified for the job he is, and then add on top of that the fact that he is clearly not healthy after suffering a stroke. Well, the more John Fetterman is going to tank, and by virtue Mehmet Oz is going to start rising. I mean, I truly believe that's the dynamic that we're going to see in the state of Pennsylvania. Mehmet Oz isn't making these big campaign moves. He's not packaging a really coherent, strong message and putting it out there. He's frankly terrible at campaigning. What I think's going to continue to happen here is John Fetterman is going to continue to tank his own campaign. Mehmet Oz is not going to rise. John Fetterman is going to continue to screw up, and people are going to continue to get exposed to his BS, and by virtue Mehmet Oz is going to be the clear option. It's the South Park phenomenon, making the decision between a turd sandwich and a giant douche. People are forced with choosing the lesser of two evils. And I think very, very clearly that is Mehmet Oz. Don Feta means campaign messaging isn't working, and also his attack ads aren't working at all. Merely calling Mehmet Oz rich as being your main political talking point or main political attack point in the end isn't going to cut it. My opponent is rich and owns real estate isn't a persuasive political argument. There's not enough good going for John Fetterman to buck the clear right-wing trend. We're in a Republican-favored electoral environment. And so either John Fetterman is going to underperform and just barely squeaked by, or we're going to see a massive upset victory as this guy's campaign continues to crater, and this is just another massive L to add to the long list of John Fetterer woman massive L's throughout this campaign season. I mean, the guy seems to be modeling his campaign after Joe Biden. Doesn't exactly seem like a sound strategy, considering this election is probably going to be a referendum on Joe Biden's presidential performance. And even Jen Psaki was able to admit. Thanks for being here, folks. Big hug. Ciao. Goodbye. God bless. We'll see you in the next one. Remember where we go. 1.